I'm with my girl, Dani Lynch. I met Dani when she was just turning 13 and had just joined an ECNL soccer team and was really at the beginning of trying to figure out the game that she needed to adopt in order to really compete at that level. And I met her at the beginning of that, and through this journey she has turned herself into a girl who's earned the chance to play Power 5 soccer at a place like Clemson. It's been the most amazing thing for me to be able to witness, and we have spent countless hours together over the years. Her commitment has been unreal, driving from, in essence, LA, you know, when you were a young girl with your dad or your mom, to make that commitment to come out here to work together. Take me back to that first day and how you felt coming in and what you took away after that first day in terms of who I was and what we were going to do together.
Okay, so I remember when I first showed up at that Del Prado field, I was absolutely terrified. And then the first thing you had me do, it was the one thing I was like, please don't have this man ask me to do this. You were like, go juggle. And I was like, oh, gosh darn it. I'm like, he's gonna think I'm terrible. But then I came back next week, and then the week after, and then every week after for forever, basically, yeah.
So how quickly do you remember making progress? You're like, this is crazy. I'm able to do stuff like I've not really been able to do before.
Yeah, I remember, basically I remember just the first year, every single time we started juggle passing, touches, just getting that in. And I remember by the third month, I was getting more juggles than I ever had before.
So how did that impact your ability to go back to your team where eventually you're starting or you're playing as much as a starter or whatever? Like, when did that happen and how did you feel when that stuff was happening?
I think just going into practice, I was able to feel like, oh, I can touch the ball as good or even better than most of these girls now that I've been training with Chris. And I think then that also made me be able to focus on other aspects, like being able to be aggressive on the field and other stuff, not being so worried about one thing, that I was just able to be able to do everything on the field.
Yeah. And so at what point did you realize that, oh my gosh, the way that he's teaching me to touch a ball is accelerating my game a lot faster than I maybe thought it would once we started to get going?
I think I realized the progression a lot, since it was so fast that I think sometimes coaches didn't know what to do with me, since they thought it was a fluke that I got so much better so fast. And I remember that at that point I was so frustrated that I wasn't getting the more playing time that I deserved at that point. I was like, I'm as good, I'm better than these girls now, and I still wasn't getting that playing time since it was literally a 6-month window where the large improvement happened, and coaches were like, that just can't happen to a player, it's not possible. And I just remember that frustration knowing that I was good enough and not getting that playing time, that I was like, I know that what I've done with Chris is good, and I'm gonna get something good out of this if I keep being consistent. I feel like some of the coaches that I had, they were waiting for me to mess up, and then it never came. So then I was at that point I was there's no excuse for me not to be getting my playing time and stuff like that. And there was no excuse at that point, so I did get that playing time.
At what point did you actually start on your ECNL team?
2-3 years ago is when I really started starting.
Dani's 18 now.
Yeah, it was solidified, completely solidified 2 years ago.
That was kind of around the time then, around COVID.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Right? And so once COVID cleared to a point where we felt comfortable coming out here to work, a lot of people felt like they suffered through COVID because they felt disconnected from the social life that they had before COVID and everything else. And you, like other people that I was able to work with, instead took that time, and there was a ton of development that took place, right? Personal development, sports development. How was that time for you in your life, where for other people they were like, this was miserable, I'm losing myself? For you weren't, right?
Well, during that time too, club completely stopped, and it didn't start until the way end of COVID, where they're like, oh, you can pass from 5 yards away from each other, which was honestly so stupid. I remember 1 month during COVID, I came out every single morning. I was with you every single day. I remember that so much. And like that's where I had my most improvement with you. Then at the end of it, like the progression and the strength that I gained from over COVID, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is how I'm gonna make it. Like I'm gonna have a shot. Since I remember beforehand, I didn't even think I had a shot of playing college soccer. And like, I think sometimes I'm still in my, sometimes like it's still mind-boggling that I'm playing in the ACC and I'm like, there's no way. But then I'm like, no, I worked hard enough. Like I know that I deserve it. But we worked out so much and like I enjoyed every minute of it.
Yeah.
Like I loved it.
What has our last, in essence, 5 years meant to you? I mean, because we talked about it today briefly about how amazing so much of our time has been together. That as much as you have grinded out here, that it has been, our time together has been so enjoyable. And we've created this really special bond, right?
Yeah.
And so for you, what has this meant as you look back at it? What has this meant to your development as a player and just to your life? Like what has this, how has this influenced your life?
Oh my gosh, it's influenced everything. Like I feel like training with you and like also just like the talks, like you're just like it's so normal and it's more like I'm like, oh, I'm training with a friend. Like it's not like, oh, like it's like an equal playing field always. And like I don't know, everything changed when like I started training with you. Like I don't even know how to explain it. It's so hard to explain and I feel like people won't get it. But like there's like never a bad day. Like I feel like there's always gonna be the hard days training with you and you're gonna be like, oh, that drill sucked, like that like was so tiring, but it's worth it in the end. And like it's never like you're like, it's always uplifting. It's never like putting me down.
What if had you never met me?
Yeah,
what
would
do you
have
think would
happened?
happen?
To be completely honest, I think I would have quit soccer. Like I really do. Like I remember like hard times at club, I would come and I'd talk to you and like we wouldn't even I remember one day we didn't even train. I remember one day that was like the day that I was like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. And like we just sat and talked for like 2 hours about it. And like I honestly think I would have quit soccer without you.
Could you have ever pictured, based on where you were when I met you, becoming the player that you are today? Could you even see that possibility existed?
No, I honestly, like, I remember my dad was just like, oh, I'm just trying to make soccer fun for you again. Like, go try this. Like, he's awesome, like, from what I've heard. And I think I started training with you as a way just to, like, start loving the sport again.
And what's so funny is that someone might look at me and go like, well, he's a football guy. What does he know about soccer? And you've been around me as long as anyone. And so you've actually seen me touch a soccer ball and do things like that really I don't rehearse, I don't practice. I am able to execute things because I'm doing it from the mind, not from the foot. And my mind is directing my foot and I'm athletic enough to do a certain thing a certain way, right? So for anyone to be like, well, why would you go to Chris? You could go to this technical soccer trainer who you could find anywhere at any corner. You know, what does he know about soccer? And like, what would you say to that?
Well, you're not like anyone else. Like, I feel like you could look at multiple like coaches that are just like straight technical, and they're like every other coach, and they just set up those cone drills and are like, just go through it, like go through the motions of it, like just go as fast as you can. And like, I remember I used to train with those guys, and I was like, this is not helping me at all, because it's not the like, sure, it's gonna help you a little bit, but that's not what it's all about. Like, your mind has to be right. You have to know what you're looking for, because sometimes when people just go through the motions and try and get it done so fast, they're not actually like technically knowing what they're doing right or what they're doing wrong. And like, it takes me back to when like we were doing like long balls and just focusing on like getting like me hitting the ball correctly, and you're like, why did that ball go that way? And like, I remember in the beginning I was like, I have no idea. And then now whenever I hit a ball wrong, I'm like, oh, like before you even say anything, I'm like, that's what I did wrong. And like, I know what I need to fix for the next thing.
What you are talking about is you identified that there's this game within the game that most people do not know how to play. And in order to know how to play that, you would have to understand the mental component of performance, because that's where the game is created. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, completely.
And that game creates a different intention, a different connection, a different feel, which creates a different ownership. That's how you end up owning what you're doing. You don't show up and wonder who you're going to be. You're like, I know exactly who I'm going to be today, right? Because I own what I'm doing. True?
Yeah, and like, I think that's exactly how like all athletics work. It's for every single sport, and that's why I think you're able to train so many sports. Like I remember when we just started back up again, you're like, oh, I'm training this golf guy. I was like, what? And I was like, that makes absolutely no sense. But then I remembered that beforehand, I was like, I've trained with some of your football guys before. And like, I remember we did a sandpit day, and like, that has nothing to do with any of our sports. That's just us working hard and grinding and getting in the mindset of, hey, like, we're gonna do this hard work right now. And that's every single sport. And I think that's how you're able to be like, oh, you're a football guy, but you can do it with anyone. Like, I remember you were also training volleyball kids with us. Like, I just remember I've met so many people from different sports, baseball, like, and like all that stuff. And it's honestly, like, yes, you're amazing at all, like, you know all the sports well, but it's like, what you add, that extra component, is the mindset that makes it like so much better than other coaches.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
And so as you get ready to go to Clemson, do you feel fully prepared? Do you feel like you're ready to go attack this?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, there's always nerves going in, and I think that's a good thing, since that just means like that you care. But I feel so ready. Like, I remember the one thing my coach was like, come in physically fit and mentally prepared. And I was like, okay, I got both those things. I said it to you this morning. I'm like, I'm ready. Like, let's do this thing. I'm like so excited. Yeah.
And I know you are, right? Yeah. So if you were to tell anybody who might have the chance to access me the way you did at 13, if you were to tell anyone who's like, it's too far of a drive, I have my own technical coach, I got this figured out, I'm already good. If they had a chance to access me, what would you tell them if that was available to them and they were considering not doing it or doing it?
I'd say if you don't do it, I'm like, it's life-changing. Like, honestly, like, it's like I drive more than an hour every single time that I come see you, and it's worth it every single time, like every single day. Like, even if you get to see you like once a week, once every 2 weeks, like, there's still going to be an improvement every single time. And like, I think people miss out when they're just like, oh, he's a football guy, he has nothing to do with my sport. I'm like, no, he actually does. Like, he knows what he's doing. I'm like, look at me 5 years ago and look at me now. They're completely different levels of people. So go to Chris.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Has this been worth every minute that you've ever invested in coming out here?
Yep.
Yeah. Would you do it again?
I'm gonna miss Pepper Tree.
I know. Would you do it all over again if you could do it all over again?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
I'd do it earlier. Start at age 8.
Probably, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. This has been really special for me. I hope it's been special for you.
It has.
I appreciate you in so many regards. So hopefully this is
Don't make me cry right now. We made it through
me.
the video without me crying, and you're gonna make me cry.
No,
this is not cool.
No, but it's been special.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
Dani Lynch, everyone. Look for her at Clemson Soccer. But if you want to achieve success, she's telling you how to actually do it. So much of the game has more to do than just the technical game. And unless you unlock the mental game, you're leaving over half of your game on the sideline. That's a tough way to find your greatness. So if you have the opportunity to take advantage of unlocking this game, find me.